Next, we have Mr. Hu Tao, who's, of course, is the academic chair of the Policy Research Center of the State Environmental Protection Administration of China.
Thank you, Mr. Cao. I also would like to take the opportunity to thank Committee 100 to invite me to be here to share my experiences. And earlier, our previous speaker, Dan, has already mentioned China's serious environmental pollution problem comparing with other Asia countries. I want to, because of time limit, I want to skip this one, directly move to next question, what China is doing. So China has such a kind of problems, what China is doing. Currently there are a lot of programs and projects and policies and legislations, and I want to emphasize only two. When our moderator, Mr. Cao, introduced me, I'm from the Policy Research Center of State Environmental Protection Administration. I want to tell you, actually, the name just changed months ago. From the State Environmental Protection Administration, that equals to US EPA, changed to Ministry of the Environment Protection. The new name is MEP. That's a kind of, the central government is really paying attention on environment protection to upgrade the level from the administration to the ministry, become the full cabinet member. Another program I want to emphasize is in the 11th five-year plan, the central government of China has set up the target to reduce pollutions. Carbon and energy intensity should be reduced 20% from 2006 to 2010. And sulfur dioxide absolute emissions amount should be reduced 10%. COD should be also reduced 10%. So that might be somehow, just the figures. Let me do a comparison with US. You will know the ambitious pollution control target of China. In Bush administration, he set up the target for the similar, exactly same with Chinese target, carbon intensity reduction. His target is to reduce 18% below, above the level of 1990 until 2012. 22 years, reduce 18%. China is going to reduce 20% within 5 years. Give you some sense, what China is, the program is about. And the government is taking many actions, including including the technology improvement, enhancing the management, new legislations. They're doing that. But here, I'm trying to emphasize one very important issue, which related to you and me and the city of Los Angeles. During the launch, the mayor of Los Angeles mentioned the area is a city in the U.S. received a lot of Chinese goods, and if you look at the cargo containers, there are still some empty containers here in Los Angeles. U.S. actually and China has a mutual big trade partners almost. And the trade is actually really related, strongly linked with current China's energy reduction program. So why is that? So think about the trading between China and the US. China exports a lot of energy-intensive, labor-intensive products to US. It's the opposite way. US export Hollywood movies, Disneyland movies to China. I cannot say this is zero carbon, but it's very light. See the unbalanced trade from the perspective of the environment. So we can measure the trade either by the weight, by the volume, by the value, or by the environment. Earlier mentioned the containers, cargo containers here. Definitely, area has huge surplus of containers. That's by the volume. If by the value, China has surplus. China every year has about, I think, 200 million US dollar trade surplus with US. China has already accumulated 1.7 trillion US dollars as a foreign currency reserve. However, from the perspective of the environment, you will see it's another picture. Here I show you some figures we simulate by our so-called computable general equity model to simulate the, accounting between China and the rest of the world, not exactly for, with US, all of the countries. China in 2005, China has 1.23 billion tons of carbon deficit, taking about 23% of total China's carbon emission. China also has 5.29 million tons of sulfur dioxide. China also has a deficit. And water resources similar. And this is our research work. Some other research groups in UK, the Tyndall Center for Climate Change, also estimate about 23% of carbon emissions of China is due to the foreign trade. Another think tank of UK called New Economics Foundation, they calculate for the whole UK, if UK doesn't import goods from China, UK's carbon emission will increase about 1/3. So why is that? Think about the world from the historical view. When industrial evolution started from UK, UK at that time was an industrial center and also a pollution center. Later, the industrial center moved from UK to European continental, to US, to Japan, Korea, now to China. That's another, I would add to earlier, Dan said, there's opportunity, Olympics, opportunity for China to improve its technology, its management. That's two more reasons China could do. Another one, actually, why China has such a kind of huge, by our environment term, trade deficit in terms of environment. That's because of international trade, because of globalization. Globalization, China partly is a gainer. From the environment perspective, I also would say that's a loser. So my conclusion, based on our studies, China has a trade surplus in monetary terms, but a deficit in environment terms. What China is doing, if we realize such a kind of trade environmental deficit and also monetary trade surplus is not good for China. China is going to balance that. What China is doing, there are a couple of measures China is taking. One of the significant one, I would say, is China itself set up a tariff for exporting products which are carbon intensive, pollution intensive. Has already set up the target. So I want to carefully emphasize again, the tariff is for the exporting, not for importing. That's very different. And China is trying to revise its investment guidelines for domestic investment, for overseas development, for foreign direct investment, trying to greening the investment guidelines. In the future, China doesn't want to have the energy-intensive, pollution-intensive industry to be invested in China. So also some other policies is being taken or will be taken in the future. So, there are also some other measures. But think about earlier the question raised by Mr. Cao. So since he has a huge carbon footprint, when taking the airplane. So when you're buying some goods or you're consuming something, think about partly your contribution to the pollutions in China and to the world. What should we do? We should think about that question. Thank you very much.